Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm Carol Williams with Williams Immigration, and we are back for another Monday morning edition of Beyond the Soundbite, where we talk about all things U.S. immigration. So, y'all know I like to dive right in. It is still cap season, H-1B cap season technically, so I'm going to start with that. Today is the day where USCIS must receive all of your H-1B cap cases. So I know I'm talking with all of my friends that are immigration lawyers. All of our H-1Bs have been already mailed. They're already at USCIS, but today is the official last day. And so I mention that because today being the deadline to have all of your cap cases received by USCIS, generally what CIS is going to do after this deadline of today, they're going to go through and they're going to basically count the number of cases that they have that are currently pending, the cases that just came in the door, and do they have enough? Do they think they have enough to meet the cap, the required cap? And so it's more than simply, do we have enough cases in the door? They usually need more than the 85,000 total in the door because they know that a certain percentage of those will not be filed, a certain percentage of those will be denied. So they do all the math, they do all the statistics, all the math. And so I mention this because if we're going to have a second cap, it generally comes shortly after the deadline for the first lottery. So within the next, I would say, week or two, we should know whether or not USCIS will be running a second lottery. Sometimes they tell us ahead of time, sometimes they don't. So we'll start, certainly in my firm, we'll start monitoring my USCIS accounts again when it comes to the H-1B lottery. So I just wanted to put that out there. So the lottery is, all those cases officially need to have been filed today, received with USCIS today. But beyond today, USCIS will make sure that they have enough cases currently in-house in the pipeline to fulfill the cap. If they don't, then we'll have another lottery. If they do, then we won't have another lottery. So we'll see what happens. Next thing I want to talk to you about this morning, as a result of the H-1B cap season, is what we call cap gap. Cap gap is a way for students to continue working from the end of their EAD until their H-1Bs are approved-ish. So this year is the first year we've seen an extension in cap gap, and what that means is your ability to remain in the U.S. in status as an international student and continue working now extends from October 1st through April 1st of next year, or the date your H-1B change of status is approved, whichever is sooner. So USCIS recognized that some cases were taking longer to get processed, in part because of a second lottery, right? So those cases were taking a little bit longer to get processed. Folks were having to come off payroll as of October 1 because that was the start of the new fiscal year. And so now we have, via regulation, we have an extension of that cap gap. So keep that in mind. But let me tell you what cap gap doesn't allow you to do. If your H-1B is pending, you are past if your H-1B is pending and your H-1B visa has expired, cap gap does not allow you to travel and come back in using that expired visa. So be very, very careful when you need to travel for work or travel for personal reasons. Make sure that you are able to travel and come back into the U.S. Now, if you are eligible, let's say you're in your first year of, let's say, STEM OPT, then certainly you can go out, you can come back in, but just, you want to have a conversation with your immigration attorney and your in-house folks before you buy your tickets and before you leave the country, right? If your H-1 application has not been approved and you leave, the Immigration Service will then say, okay, maybe you and the job as a pair can be approved, but your change of status cannot be approved. So you'll still be in the U.S. in F1 status if you've re-entered an F, but now you've got to go out, get a visa, and come back in. Well, that can happen, but now we need to consider the wait times at the consulates to get visas and all the things that have been happening that are slowing down those visa appointments. So there's just a lot of moving parts where we maybe didn't have so many moving parts previously. So if you are an F1 student, an international student, you got into the lottery, your H-1B is filed, it's pending, it's approved before you purchase a plane ticket and or leave the US, please, please, please have a conversation with your internal contact at your company as well as the immigration attorneys. So I wanted to make sure that we kind of covered that. The other thing that I want to cover this morning on H-1Bs is once your H-1B is approved, everyone's very happy, you're working, you're sort of at that next stage. Be mindful that if you change work locations or if the nature of your job changes substantially, you may have to file an amendment for that H-1B application. So keep that in mind. Any major job shifts, whether it be location or job duties, is potentially going to require an amendment to that H-1B. So that's a new filing. And also, specifically for my employers out here, DHS can and will do site visits in connection with H-1B applications. We've not heard about that in the news recently. The media is focusing on ICE raids, but DHS can and will do site visits for H-1B employees. And so I want to bring that to this community here. I don't want us to forget that. So I don't want us to then be blindsided if it in fact happens. And if we do need to file amendments, keep in mind personal as well as business travel plans. So we want to kind of really think about and strategize when our employees are traveling, when they're not traveling, how long it's going to take to get the visa, and in the specific country that they're going to. So that's kind of my morning for you with H-1Bs and international students as well. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the birthright citizenship Supreme Court ruling. So what the ruling did not do, it did not make a decision on whether or not the executive order is accurate and legal when it comes to the substance of birthright citizenship. It did not do that. It did not at all touch the substance of the executive order. What it did do was it talked about the process of an executive order and the process of challenging an executive order. And so by that, I mean, the Supreme Court essentially said that district courts, so our lower level federal courts, cannot make a decision that ties the hands or binds the entire country. What a district court can do, and what folks that are filing these lawsuits now must do, is to file individual lawsuits or class action lawsuits. And so those individual lawsuits or class action lawsuits will impact only the people that file the lawsuits. It will not have that judge's ruling will not have an impact nationwide. So my crystal ball tells me that what we will see moving forward, not only on the birthright citizenship executive order, but on other executive orders from this presidency as well as future presidencies, are more class action lawsuits that bring together a larger class of people that will challenge an executive order. So I wanted to really just cover that because I've heard a few people say that, birthright citizenship is no longer a thing, and that is not the case. That is not what the Supreme Court said. They did not touch the substance of the executive order. They really talked about the process by which an executive order is challenged. So that's really all I have for y'all this morning. If you have any questions about F1 students, OPT, STEM OPT, transitioning over to H-1B, feel free to give our office a call. We are happy to set up a consultation with you and see how we can help you. If you're not quite sure what your plan B is yet, and you've got some time left, maybe you've got another year left in STEM OPT, you're not quite sure what your plan B is, we're happy to help you strategize what that may look like. And we will keep you up to date on the executive orders and birthright citizenship. If something else goes up to the Supreme Court, we'll keep you up to date on that as well. That's all I have this Monday morning. So have a great Monday morning and a wonderful